Smashing it. All right, there it is.
Woo!
All right,
It's
we're
live.
recording.
It's real time.
Yeah,
Oh man.
yeah, Google has all sorts of crazy systems that they have to do themselves. So I have a friend that works there, and he was just going through all of because there's stuff I use every day that's very commonplace as an engineer, and Google has to just make their own because
I would
it doesn't
imagine.
scale. Sorry, it doesn't work when you have however many tens of thousands of engineers all working together. But yeah, I've been thinking about this thing all week. I've been trying not to because it's
I
like
know, right? Keep it authentic.
exactly because I don't want to come in with some like predetermined topic to talk about, or like I just
Oh
want it to
yeah.
be like the regular conversations we have, mostly because I think that's what would be the coolest for other people to hear,
Yeah.
um, and what I think people are wanting. Because it's really funny, Shelby. It's like as soon as I started recording these, um, some people have just been coming out of the woodwork. Not because I've like they didn't like go like and see my videos, like
Yeah.
30 people have seen the videos. But
Hey, that's a good amount.
just like putting it out there, and I've had several conversations with other people on this same subject. And by this subject, I mean specifically um, building awareness on what the root cause of a lot of my suffering was, and then how to resolve that. And it's so funny. I I when I was doing this work and I got some relief from crippling depression for the better part of a decade. And by crippling depression, and you already know this,
Yeah.
but by crippling depression, I mean like not knowing how to wake up in the morning and go outside and face the world. I mean, I did. It was just terrifying. That was almost every day for almost 10 years. And I didn't know how I was ever going to get relief. I had almost resigned myself to just being that, just feeling that way. And then I got that. What's really funny is I was like, okay, this will work for just general depression and anxiety. But like as far as food is concerned, no, that's a special baby that like it doesn't work there. Uh, and and so I continued to suffer and struggle with food, um, and that cycle that you talk about so frequently, right? Where it's just that super restrictive, or the pendulum, I guess, or cycle,
Yeah.
whatever. But it's like super restrictive, and then just going off the rails.
Yeah.
In my story, that's just binging and purging,
Mm-hmm.
right? And suffering with that after getting tons of relief,
Yeah.
tons and tons of relief, being able to be out in the world, um, and by any metric, or by I'm not any metric, but by a lot of metrics, being like a successful member of society, right? And
Yep.
then uh,
But I find that pretty common. Um, there's a big commonality with the people that I speak with who have done like good work on other areas of their life, with therapy or with meditation, or there's for like an alternative, like substance abuse.
mm,
And it's like, just can't transfer the info over to this world, because there's overlap. Like we talked, like there's overlap, right? On many fronts, but to articulate and get like the steps, like what's the bridge, that's where people really need some help, you know?
yeah,
So
that's what
very
I
common
wanted to
feedback.
ask you was like, where's the gap? Like, I don't like, for me, it was so mind-boggling for me to be like, okay, it took, and maybe that's a faulty question. Maybe there wasn't a gap, and that's just kind of the process, and it's working its way through. And that was one of my more challenging ones. But like, okay, this worked for this like big, huge, heavy thing, but when it comes to food, no, food is this
Yeah.
special thing that it doesn't apply to. What has been your experience?
Well, I think that with food, we naturally, I think from just our society, we think of it in terms of numbers. We think of it in terms of mechanics, facts, figures. And we're not really taught to look at the emotions or look at how that common denominator brain, how we think, our tendencies of how we think, and how that applies. Like no one's really out there saying, well, have you looked at that? And so I think that's a gap. But I also think that there's many people that know that that's an issue. But it's sometimes I'll describe it like this. Like people know that there's an issue, right? And they think the solution, for example, is like mindfulness. But mindfulness is so broad, that term, right? Well, just be more mindful. Ba 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 ba. Well, like that's great in theory, and like there's truth to that. But people I find need the specific how-tos. That's the gap. They need that articulated because kind of like winging it is just making the problem worse in your head. So they need something a little bit more tangible, I find, to hold on to like bring over some things that they already know, but in the world of food. They just need that articulated bridge, if that makes sense.
I think that's actually a great point. I find that most of my main criticism with self-help in any variety is a lack of specificity and consistency of action. So
Yeah.
it's like write your affirmation down like 100 times every day, right? And that's the step, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. What else?
Yeah.
And who's going like, and at least for me, the most success I've ever had has been with mentorship of some kind and some variety and consistent meeting, and bouncing like, because I don't know about you, but I ebb and flow in my life, and if I get good at something and then I forget a lot of
Right.
the time. Um,
Because you're human,
exactly. And so
not
it's
because you're
so,
weak or
yeah.
have no willpower or you don't have discipline.
I'm glad you brought up willpower. Willpower is a really funny one.
Hmm.
And um,
You were talking about the ebb and flow and about mentorship, though,
oh, but
and having the
no, I will go
consistency.
as good. Thanks for bringing me back on track. I want to get back to willpower. That's one of my, I love that topic. I love that topic. But with self, it's like I read a book and I feel really good and it sounds really nice.
Yeah.
And then there might be some concrete steps to go take.
Hmm.
But in my experience, those steps don't really address the root causes
Hmm.
whatsoever. It's just like, go do these actions and then go get these results that you're seeking. And let's say, for example, the results I'm seeking, let's say it's lose 25 pounds or 30 pounds or whatever it is. If I don't take care of what actually put on that weight in the first place, the weight is just a symptom of some underlying root
Right.
condition and cause mentally. Like, I'm going to lose the weight and then I'm going to still have that thing that's still there. And while
Yeah.
the weight loss might even be permanent, let's say, all right, that I'm successful, I now have this new routine in my life, I still have this other thing going on. I don't know what it is. For me, it was a lack of self-worth and
Yeah.
self-esteem.
That, and I think for many, it's a lack of self-compassion. Many people don't give themselves enough grace to just learn, to be erroneous, to be imperfect. And we want things with our eating to be static.
Mm.
And that just is never going to happen. You have to learn how to ebb and flow, but without feeling like you're a morally bad person because you ebbed a little bit. I think part of, so like in terms of gaps, and mentorship, I think I play that voice in the ear because I feel like I'm just the voice of reality. if that makes sense. Because people need to hear, hey, look, you're going to suck at this at first. It's okay. Like, don't worry about it. This is going to take time. All right. Like, we need that kind of support, because otherwise we demand so much of ourselves and we psych ourselves out. We don't know how to psych ourselves back in.
It's so true. I mean, I can remember so many times when I went on some plan or some other, and then, I deviated slightly from said plan. And then the next thought is, well, you deviated, therefore everything is
Yeah.
now fucked.
Yeah.
And so you might as well go and buy $14 worth of McDonald's or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's a big leap to take.
Yes. I just got off a call, and this happens all the time. I would say 99% of my clients have this all or nothing mentality around food. All or nothing mentality. Now, they have an all or nothing mentality because on one aspect, it's a superpower for them. They're very successful, like yourself. Like, they like to win. They like to succeed. They know how to hustle. They know how to put in the work. They're very disciplined, very smart people. But it creates a lack of balance in that world of eating. And so in the world of eating, the all or nothing mentality will always keep you stuck, right? In the dieting, or like the binge, or the like the restrictive eating, and then the binging. It's constant. And so what I like to propose, instead of the all or nothing, like, we're looking at more days versus less days. So like, I just got off a call with somebody, and we were talking about like having foods that if they were to just have, they would think, oh, I broke protocol. Like you said, if it was a beer, or was this ice cream, or it was chips, or like fruit, or whatever it is, we were comparing scenarios of how I view it versus how she would view it. And she was saying, okay, well, if I were to, have this beer once a week when I normally am trying to be good, I would be like, you suck. I can't believe you're doing this. Well, you might as well wake up and have chocolate pancakes the next day, because you're a failure and you're just going to start next week. Right? So like, that's an example of the all or nothing. And if we look at, well, let's have more days and less days where we're eating high quality foods. Let's have more days and less days where we've got some rhythm. Let's have more days and less days, where we're really tuning into those hunger fullness cues as best you can, like having those relaxed, nourishing experience. More days and less days. And what that does is allow flexibility, yes, but when those times come where you want to just choose to have some variety, you're not failing. It's actually part of the game plan. And it's the smallest tweaks of just of like giving yourself a little bit of space like that. That's a paradigm shift for people. That's
But
a
Shelby,
huge paradigm shift.
I do what you're saying, right? Won't I just become a fat, worthless piece of shit and just eat cookies all the time?
Well, I said, so then I brought up two scenarios. I said, so if we have scenario A of, hey, more days, more often, less often, we're going to, really try to stay tuned in. We're going to, again, choose foods that you enjoy, but also make you feel really good. And, here and there, you have something just for fun. Okay. More days, less days, like, you're really on point. Like, you're doing really well. Let's say we do that for 2 weeks. Okay, wow, you're going to be consistent, right? You're going to have less overeating episodes, less binge eating episodes. Like, all of that is going to be down. Okay. Then we have scenario B. Scenario B, where week 1 is like straight A's student. You are amazing. You didn't even put salt in that food, right? You said no to everything. Oh, and then Saturday comes around and you're so deprived by Saturday because you put so much energy and deprivation into your week that something comes along and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to have this. Oh, and then because I want to have this, I suck, so I might as well just have everything. And then you take another couple days of just complete off the grid overeating and like whatever, and you're stressed out more. Which scenario wins in the end? I think it's going to be scenario A. Right? Like, scenario B will never cause you to win. It just won't. It'll never happen.
And this reminds me of the, like, scenario B reminds me of my I love this topic, but the willpower topic that I was getting off top, like, because willpower is a finite resource. So the real hack which I don't like using that term, but the real mind fuck for me was like, I want to get to a point where willpower isn't it's unnecessary because I'm eating things that I actually really want to be eating effortlessly.
Yeah.
I
Effortlessly.
don't need
Exactly.
fucking willpower. Like, I haven't
Yeah.
had a drink in 10 years. Okay. I'm not white knuckling me not drinking.
Right.
I'm not using willpower right now. I'm not thinking about it in the back of my mind, like, oh man, I got to go get a beer after this.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, it doesn't exist in the first
Right.
place. Because for me, like alcohol doesn't jive with me. It does not jive with me at all, spiritually, emotionally, or physically.
Right.
Feels really good, but up to a point, that's about it.
Right.
Now the special thing with food is like, I have to eat. I don't have to drink to survive. I have to eat to survive.
You're faced with that every day.
But I don't have to pound McDonald's every day to survive. Yeah. Now I can go and have McDonald's if I want to. That's totally an option.
Right.
But in my experience, it just doesn't feel very good to have that consistently.
And that's the big shift is, so your meaning, okay, your why behind not picking up a drink is different than somebody else's why of why they don't pick up a drink. And for you, it's like, it doesn't align with my values, my higher code. It doesn't physically make me feel good. Like, it has personal meaning to you. It has nothing to do with because, oh, I just shouldn't, or I'm a bad person if I do, or that's what the world says that I should do. It's personal. And that's what's lacking in the food world. Food is so mechanical. And one of the first things that I have to really work on with people is, how do I make it meaningful? Because when it's meaningful, you're just going to do it. So maybe that's a pain point, like, hey, this doesn't physically make me feel good, right? Or this is going to impact something else, like with like my heart rhythm or something, you know, could be my work performance, could be something deeper, you know. But, you know, it's that combined with actually enjoying it. Food is something that is hated and feared across the board. And every day it's like people have to sleep with the enemy because they have to eat, you know. So it's like, that kind of sucks. So it's either how do I learn to actually make amends with this enemy, not just for the purpose of losing weight, but because I want to be friends. Can we just be friends? Can we not hate each other? How do we not hate each other? Well, one, we have to work through how our thinking patterns, right? We've been talking, you know, privately the last couple calls about just toxic thinking patterns, things that we just have been there for so long, and it's such a driving force to how we do food or how we do life, right? That's a big one. And just kind of reestablishing a trust factor with food. That's a big one. But pleasure is very absent in eating, and so is just meaning. And meaning, instead of being good, I want the meaning for people to be feeling good. And that's easy to say theoretically, but through the right training and experience, it can't just be a textbook thing that you learn. You've got to experience what that means to feel good. Then you're going to stick with it. That's when things are going to feel natural.
It's so true. And that's what it moves into, that effortless or the unconsciously conscious, I think, phase of things. If I were to use your flow chart, which I love that thing. I love it. But I've always talked about, I've experienced that in other facets of my life, of like being completely, have no idea and just screwing everything up and have no idea, and having no idea that I'm screwing things up. And then and then I'll become aware that I'm screwing the thing up, and then I continually fuck it up over and over again, and then I fuck it up less as I'm aware of fucking it up, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'm fucking it up way less now, and then going into the, well, oh wow, it's not even, I don't even have to try not to fuck it up, I just don't. Right,
that's right. And sometimes, you know, what I say is like, sometimes you got to bang your head against the wall a couple more times before you're like, yeah, you know, this probably isn't going to work, you know. And sometimes you have to do that. You know, that's why I don't work with first timers. I think we talked about that. I work with people who have banged their head against the wall time and time again with all these other approaches. So they're like, yeah, you know, I'm kind of ready. I'm ready. Otherwise you won't be ready to make that inner shift, you know. You were ready. You banged your head against the wall long enough.
Oh my God, I've been banging against the wall since I was like 9 years old. It's crazy. It's crazy how deep that I think this is like the original sin, like the original sin or like the original scar is the food stuff.
Yeah.
For me anyway, it was. I was a chubby kid and like wasn't accepted into groups because what I prescribed is because I was chubby.
Yeah.
And I was a chubby kid, and so people would point and laugh at me and make fun of the fat kid. And then it's like, and then I grow up and, you know, I'm like a 30-year-old man and I'm still the chubby, like 6th grader who just wants to be accepted.
Oh yeah.
And I think everyone is just recovering from middle school. I think.
I think you have a point there.
So
I think you have a point. We don't realize how much we bring from our childhood, you know, subconsciously. It's just kind of playing in the background, right? And that's like we've talked like our last call, right, about like the secret sauce is just getting a little help identifying what's there, right?
It's all it is. It's like once I start becoming aware of these thoughts, and especially doing it with somebody else, because I can become aware of the thoughts all day long, and then sometimes I can get off the rails with it, and it's really nice to have someone to bring it back to center and get to some sense of objectivity, and then finding ones that other stories to believe. To replace that one, because you know what, I'm a giant fat piece of shit story doesn't really work too well for me. I'm not a huge fan of that story.
And sometimes you have to pluck it out because it's so real, it's so factual in your head, but when you like pluck it out, like whether yourself or you have someone, you know, like you or me helping you, you know, somebody do that, and you put it out there and you're like, look, here's how you're thinking. You're a fat piece of shit. This is causing you to feel terrible about yourself. You're feeling defeated. And what does that do? It's leading you to eat. Do you see the connection? Like, that's the record that we've got to change. We got to put a new vinyl on there, right?
The irony is palpable. And I think this is where I think like The Secret and the Law of Attraction kind of like miss the boat, right? Because I don't think it's like I think of a special thing.
Yeah.
And then I get like, I'm thinking of $1 million, and then like $1 million appears on my doorstep. That's not how it works. But what I focus on, I find evidence for in my life all of the time. So if I'm constantly saying to myself, consciously or otherwise, I'm a fat piece of shit, I am going to continually look for evidence as to why, and I believe it. And some part of me really, really believes it, and that's a feeling. I can feel it. It doesn't feel very good. And that thought comes up, I'm like, oh, yes, you are. And it's like, it agrees. There's like an agreement, right? And then I'm going to look for evidence. And then I'm going to pick up my phone and order $30 worth of McDonald's. I went up from 14 to 30 now, right? And so I'm going to continue looking for it. I'm going to look in the mirror, and what am I going to see? No matter how in shape I am, right? I'm going to look for the stuff that I don't like about my body. And it's going to compound and compound and compound and compound and compound, downward spiral. The cool thing is, right, at least in my experience, is that what's also possible is an upward spiral. Once these thoughts start to shift, where my default mode isn't, I'm a fat piece of shit. And that's a tough one for me. I won't even go into that. I was like, body is like, this is also new for me. So let's just say,
I'm never going to do this. That's another one. Or,
I'm never going to just having low opinions of oneself in general. And like the default being something like, I'm perfect and complete as I am right now, and starting to ingrain that and actually truly believe that. Now, what thoughts happen and what actions happen after I start believing something like that?
Right.
Instead of I'm not enough.
Exactly.
How do I behave in the world, and what do I start seeing in the world?
Right.
When I believe I have inherent value as a human being. How do I respond to the world? And for me, dramatically different. Different.
Well, I always say your brain is like a big Google search. You would appreciate this. You would appreciate this in your tech world.
Awesome.
It's like, what do I want to type into Google today? What? I am a fat piece of shit. Well, ta-da! Here's all your search results.
Found
It's this,
like
and this, and this, and this.
1,985 results.
And then you type in, why am I awesome? Or I am awesome. Boom. Then you're going to see those results. But that's all that it is.
Did you mean you were a fat piece of shit?
No, that was really good though.
Because I think that's what happened in the beginning. I think that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
At least
Oh,
for
totally.
Me, like started, and that's why I think having another person to bounce this stuff off of is so important as well. Because it's utter nonsense, right? That story, like we're laughing at it because it's just fucking garbage. It's monkey mind nonsense. It is. And until at least for me, until I started to really get some sense of self-worth and worthiness and love, most powerful thing anyone ever said to me was my mentor after working with him, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months or something, is like, I'm really excited for you to, I'm going to butcher this, but I'm going to paraphrase. And it was, I'm really excited for you to learn just exactly how awesome you are. And it took like him thinking that about me.
Yeah.
It just shifted the gears over. It's like, well, if he can think it, then I can think it. Mm-hmm. And although it's precarious to place my self-worth in the opinions of others, and that can be a rocky, that was just the little nudge I needed to start believing it for myself.
Right. I agree. I agree. I think I play that role a lot because I work with amazing men and women, amazing, smart. And they think that they're operating or their worth is so down here. And they're so like, in so many ways operating at a level of excellence that just blows me away, but they think they're down here, And so I have to say, like, do you realize like how amazing you are? I mean, and like, here's why, like I become the Google search, right? And they're like, oh, it's like, it's not even a thought. It's not even anything that they would consider. It's like a whole new foreign concept because they just haven't been looking there. We use the, I think in our last call, I use it all the time with my clients. It's Tony Robbins. And he's like, okay, well, it's like the Google search. Okay, if I have you take 30 seconds, you're going to look around the room and you're going to find everything that's brown. Go ahead and find brown, 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 brown. Okay. Now I want you to close your eyes and now I want you to recall everything that you saw that was green. And you're like, what? I was looking for the brown. I wasn't looking for the green, right? So that's why understanding subconsciously what's going on up there, you don't realize you're making that your internal universe. You're making that how you view the world. You're making that how then the world views you.
Exactly. It's exactly right.
So I don't know if I mean, in the work that I do now with like eating psychology, and if someone struggled for decades with food, there's toxic thinking patterns there. Absolutely, hands down, there's one client that I work with that does. From the negative of, well, you suck, what's the point, sort of talk, to like, I deserve that. Let's celebrate that. I want to show you I love you with that. Or I want them to love me by, so it goes both ways, but it can still be very destructive. And it's just understanding what's going on up there.
Getting pleasure I thought I was getting pleasure from food. I thought that was the problem. That's what was really funny. I was like, well, what are you talking about pleasure from? I love eating. That's why
I'm a foodie.
Fast. Exactly. That's like,
that's the problem, Shelby. How do I numb this?
Exactly.
How do I numb this pleasure?
Just give me a pill and then I eat that and then that's all, and then I'm done. Right. I eat that and that provides all my nutrients. And also sates my hunger and blah, blah,
I just want to do the robot dance when you're doing that. Exactly. So it's like so robotic,
Plug me into the outlet, right? For my nourishment.
Yes.
But I wasn't. And when you introduced me to relaxed, nourished eating, that was just, and then the concept of the objective for my meals is to feel better after because of feel better for having them, or just feel better after.
Feel better after having them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Than before you started.
Than before I started. That's the objective of the meal. I'm like, oh my gosh. Exactly.
Right.
My whole thing's feeling good. Like that's the name of the thing that we're on right now. It's
Yeah.
like, and that's what I think everyone's really wanting. Like, it's just a matter of strategies. It's like, go
And
ahead,
that's
go
the
ahead.
articulated bridge. That's what I'm talking about. Like something to just tie things that you know into the world of the food. And then once you got it, it lands.
And that was all. That was it.
That was,
That
yeah,
was
after
it.
that for you, it was like, okay, you're doing great.
That was it.
You did so good after that point.
And like and the last few days especially have just been particularly just effortless, just eating how I really want to be eating. It's been crazy. It's been nuts, the
Mm-hmm.
kind of change that's.
Give somebody an example, just because they don't. I mean, I know,
Yeah, oh
but like
sure,
what you were
yeah.
doing versus now.
It's just like when I'm hungry, right? First off, just eating when I'm hungry is nuts to me. So, for someone who binges and purges, like it's not about the hunger. It's like I would eat I could eat all the time, right? And I eat when I'm bored or when I'm sad or when I'm happy, but whatever. It's not. I don't eat when I'm hungry. I eat when there are other emotions I either want to enhance or dumb down.
Mm-hmm.
So now eating when I'm hungry most of the time is a brand new concept for me. That's seems like very simple and obvious because that's how we're meant to be eating. And that's what's
Yeah,
natural for us, but not for me. Food was a
not for many.
strategy,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Food was a strategy to deal with whatever emotion I was having. It doesn't have to be, and it doesn't even have to be a quote unquote negative emotion or one that doesn't feel very good. It could be an enhancing of an emotion I want to continue to feel, a
Mm-hmm.
celebration.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And that's where your definition of pleasure gets skewed.
exactly. Exactly right. And so there's that. And then just the contents of the food being super easy and effortless to eat, to just have, right? So it's like I'm just eating vegetables and meat and craving vegetables and meat and sweet potatoes, and
Yeah.
those are what I'm eating. It's not because I'm on some plan, right? It's not because I've gone on the internet and I've printed out my seven meals and they have all the perfect macronutrients, right? Because that's
Mm-hmm.
what my body is actually wanting.
Yeah.
I feel awesome for having
And
them.
I,
And it's sorry, I keep cutting you off, but
no,
it's like
you're good. I want to keep. I'm
it's
just like this. How we roll. That's how we always talk. Like, you go. No, I want to go. Okay, you go. You go.
but it's just so the main point is I looked over the past few days, and this is the big one, is like I was eating how I wanted to eat when I really wanted to eat, effortlessly.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to
Mm-hmm.
think about it. There was no planning. I wasn't like, okay, I'm eating at 7:30 and then I've got to wait until like this time. Like there was none
Yeah.
of that. The mental overhead,
Yeah. Oh yeah, the chatter.
missing, gone.
Well, I think because you took it, you stopped looking at it from a performance perspective, or from a have to perspective, or from a should perspective, and you just started giving yourself the opportunity to listen in, and that's foreign, for many. And so many times they also need guided. Well, I don't even know if I'm hungry. How do I know? So that's where there's still some bridges need to be made. But when you start to get rid of the distractions and let go, that big word, let go, not in a complacent way, but just from the control, like high level control standpoint, things start to align a lot more naturally.
What kind
You're
of
able to,
distractions are you talking about?
I would say all of the guilt, shame, the wanting to be perfect, the wanting to control all of those analytics. Not that, nutrition information is very important, don't get me wrong, but it's the law for many people.
Mm.
It's the law. And so when you're just trying to follow the law, you're just being a good student, then you disconnect a lot. And then you don't trust. And so then you're kind of stuck. Now you are dependent. And when you can be given that chance again to say, okay, hold on, let me just stop here for a minute. Like, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? What is my body maybe trying to say? And go moving to an approach of experimenting and exploration and curiosity. That is a whole different ball game, and you're going to connect a lot versus just do this the right way. Just don't feel. Just take the pill.
Yeah.
Just numb it out. Just numb it out. Those are unnatural processes.
Don't cross that carb threshold.
That's
Don't cross
right.
that like 100 grams of carbs in the day or whatever it is.
You're going to gain all this weight.
And I better have my shake. I better have my post-workout shake within that 35-minute window post-workout, or everything I've ever done for my body is going to reverse immediately.
Oh my
and
God.
all the gains I've ever made ever in my whole life. I mean, I'm just going like an extreme catabolic. I'm going to lose every ounce of muscle I've ever had. I'm going to turn into a woman. And that's it.
I have stories there just because of my history with the bodybuilding world.
Yeah. And
then, like, if I run, am I going to lose all my muscle mass? Like, if you go for a 5-minute run or a 10-minute run or even a 30-minute run, you're going to be okay. You're not running a marathon. Like, you're fine. What about, should I drink protein during? No, you're okay. I mean, actually,
it's
don't
amazing.
Drink
it, just chew it. Bring the powder with you.
Just like bring some meat. Yeah.
Use your sweat to create a paste, and then just start licking it and rubbing it in. That way it'll go in through the gums, and you'll get that fast-acting protein digestion.
Disgusting. Very imaginative.
Well, it's like, why do I want the gains? Why would I want to be yoked? Why do I want this like perfect body, et cetera, et cetera? It's like, why am I going to exercise in the fucking first place? And that shifted a long time ago for me. But it's like, the like, so much it was performance based. It's like, I'm do this so I can have this body, so that for me that was like, so I could be attractive, which means basically so I could be loved by somebody else.
Right. Feel good about myself
and be accepted, which, so then so then putting conditions upon when I can feel good about myself and feel whole and complete. And I'm like, that's a pretty sandy foundation to put my wholeness and my completeness, my self-worth on.
We call that unconditional love. Right? Oh, it's like taking your best friend or your kid or your spouse and say, well, only when you look this way are you worth something. You would never do that.
It's the most fucked up relationship.
It's like when you say that out loud, like we're going to have some problems here. I don't think it's going to be a long-standing relationship. I don't think that it's going to be healthy. So even if you get to that shape like that, so here's something else that's really important. People think that when they lose the weight, that yes, they're going to love themselves, right? And don't get me wrong, people, you get on a high. There's a short-term high. I mean, we're all human. There's a short-term high where you're like, woo, like I am amazing, got it. But that dies because for a couple things, like one, you hated yourself during that transformation. You self-attacked yourself during that transformation. You were disconnected during that transformation. And so like you didn't love yourself during the transformation. All of a sudden now you're good enough. It's just, again, conditional love, right? It's like having a parent say, well, I'm not going to love you until you make X amount of money. Oh, no, I love you because you made X amount of money. Like that's not a long-standing relationship. So that's why it never lasts. That's why you can never keep the weight off. Right? And you can't, I'll keep it at that. But that's a big one. A lot of people think that's also when I'm going to lose the head games. When I lose the head games, when I lose the weight, I'm going to lose the head games. Yeah. And a lot of times those head gains either get worse or they just shift from, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be loved to, well, what if it comes back? What if it comes back? What if I gain the weight back? What if I can't make this last? And it's just a different set of head games. That's all.
Yep. It'll just go that's exactly right. I'll just trade it for something else.
Yeah, that's right.
Because the weight gain or whatever it is, the overeating, the smoke, whatever is a symptom for something else happening.
Yeah.
If I don't take care of the root causes and conditions, AKA the thinking, which is what I just kind of beat into.
Yeah.
I say over, and you're going to hear this.
Oh my God, me too.
You're going to hear this 1,000 times because that's basically it. That's the whole deal.
Yeah. And I think what's important. Yeah, what people need to know about that, things take time. When you're working with changing your thinking patterns, there is not an instant gratification. And it's not even that some of those thoughts go away 100%. Like we talk, like some of them do go away 100%. But sometimes there's still some lingering thoughts, but there's no intensity there. They're just there. But it takes time. It takes practice. It's like you have a long transition period, right? Where you just got to keep practicing, and that's where people need like a coach or a mentor to say, look, it's all good. Again, more often than less often, you're doing a heck of a lot better than you were before. What's your rolling average, as you would say? I totally used that this last week, like
Yes.
multiple times. It was awesome. I was like, oh, that's so creative. I love that. What's your rolling average? And it totally hits home. But it's so true. If we get caught in that all or nothing mentality when we're trying to work on our thinking, forget it. It's slow, incremental change. And sorry, that's just the reality. I wish it could happen sooner, but it doesn't take a lifetime, but it takes more than a day.
Oh, definitely takes more than a day. And that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't want to be done either. I'm never done, right?
Yeah.
I'm never, ever, ever done. Does that mean I can't get relief in a reasonable time frame? Absolutely. Absolutely, I can.
Oh, totally.
But I'm never done with the work, ever.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be done. That would be the most boring experience of my life. I'm just going to sit here on my Buddha hill under my tree and meditate forever. That's fine. That's not the life I want. I want some spiciness thrown in there. I want some challenges thrown in there, and I'm going to get them. And I want to have fun with it. And so I don't know where I'm going with that. Because I already said it. I said the end already. It's like, I'm never done. There's always going to be work to do. And the thoughts, at least in my experience, they don't go away. What does go away, or I should say shift, is my relationship to the thought in the first place.
That's right.
Whereas,
Even
I would have the thing and I'd be like, well, this requires a reaction. I've thought this thing is true. I must now react. Now this is all subconscious, obviously. And okay, this is very true. I am this piece of shit. Now, okay, well, how am I going to hide this thing? How am I going to cover this emotion up? How am I going to numb this feeling? How am I going to prove this thing right? Now, have the thing. I'll give you a great example. Randomly, I don't remember what it was, but it was in the near future, like in the near future. It was in the near past. And it was like, just, I don't know, doing the dishes, brushing my teeth. And it was just like, you should kill yourself, popped up in my head. Just like, you should kill yourself. I'm like, what? And that was my reaction. And I'm like, you're a silly bitch. Like, I'm like, what are you talking about? Life is fucking great. So what?
Some people were like, oh my God, like what? Because you don't, the big learning part here is like, we all have a brain. It's going to say some fucked up shit. It just is. We all have some crazy thoughts. Does that make us crazy? Does that mean that we have to make those real and put that into our reality? No. But understanding that's part of being a human. Exactly. We have a very evolutionary brain. It's like a computer. It's going to spurt some stuff sometimes. And when you can see that from the big picture and not get so fully engaged and believe everything that comes out of its quote mouth, then, you're going to be okay.
And that's what I mean by the effortlessness as well, is when I have that, that's that's a pretty intense thought to be having. And then for your reaction to be laughter at how ridiculous that is, right? Before that would be like, you know what, you're right, actually. Like, life isn't worth living, and it doesn't feel like it's worth living. And I don't like that. I know tons of people that have that thought. There was a bunch of work done, right? And now the automatic reaction, I didn't have to like think about the thought, feel through it, let it course through. None of that. I didn't have to do any of the mindfulness shit that I've done with shit. It's great. It's useful tools.
But you had to do that though. I mean, you did have to. Yes, that's the intention. Exactly. The mindfulness is the bridge to get it to become more natural.
And I got to there, and then the automatic response, right? The default behavior, the complete rewiring was like laughter and playfulness.
Yeah.
At this old friend of mine.
Old younger Prince, early
Right.
Prince.
Exactly. Right. And so just a great example of the bridge of
Uh-huh.
those two things.
Oh yeah.
Um, and it's like that, and doing that one time with one thing and one facet of that, and then it just freaking snowballs. Once I discover, oh, I can actually change these thinking patterns and
Yep.
then change the automatic responses to
Yeah.
life. Doing that once and understanding that it's all it takes. That's all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
And I get
Mm-hmm.
hooked. Like, what else
Mm-hmm.
can what else can
It
explode?
is. It takes some time to be able to laugh and be objective about it, you know, and not get so emotionally participate in that. But that's the whole point at the end of all of that when it comes to the mindset, right? And people will probably listen to this and be like, "Oh my God, it feels like it's going to be such hard work, and it's like grinding your teeth." It takes intention. It definitely takes intention, and it takes patience. But I mean, it's going to happen sooner than you think. The turnaround, you know?
It definitely it doesn't. And again, on what timeline, right? It's so
Yeah,
funny. I work with some
exactly.
guys, and they'll get petulant, and it's like, it's not happening fast enough. And I'm like, bitch, we've worked for like 2 months, and we're
Yeah,
dealing
it's been
with
like 2 calls.
like, calm
You're
down, it'll
good.
be fine. Because I know, like, I'm on the other side, right? I'm like, trust me, it's worth it. If it
Oh,
took
yeah,
3 years, it would be worth it. Like, it's fine.
that's right. And you have to do that perspective. I do that all the time with my clients. I'm like, look, you struggled for 4 decades with your eating. We're on our fourth call, and
Yeah.
you're 80% reduction in your binge eating, and you're still worried about that last 20%. I think you're doing freaking okay. Like, you're okay. Just stop. But that's part of the, the importance of mentoring and coaching, right? Is because in those moments, that's when people will psych themselves out because they're
Mhm.
still kind of in this all or nothing mentality, and they're setting expectations about something that they don't know about. They don't know what it's supposed to look like, but in their world of, facts and figures, it should be this for whatever reason. And so we need to just calm, redirect, reassure, right?
Yeah, their story formation about what the actual situation is going to be trash in
Oh
the
yeah.
beginning. It's going to be horrible. And so that's like having a mentor, like, man, having someone else kind of just be like, you know what, maybe use this one instead as the truth. And I'd be like, oh, okay. And for some reason, someone else's story is way easier to believe than mine, at least in the beginning, right? And I was like, okay, I'll borrow that for now. And that gets
Yeah.
me over the fucking hump.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're really starting to develop your own, I would just call them stories, because sometimes stories can be interpreted as like fake or not real, but just different, inner dialogue, a different lens from which you're viewing yourself, internally. And sometimes you need assistance with that at first.
Yeah,
Because
so that's a great point. It's like, I've been wondering if I want to replace the word stories with something else, because when I hear the word story, I think of fantasy and I think of
yeah,
fiction.
yeah,
And I'm not here to self delude myself, right?
yeah, yeah. That's I'm glad that you
Honesty
made a
is
point to say
super
that.
is kind of crucial
Yeah, and we're
with
not
all of this
lying.
stuff. Like, there's no lying here.
Yeah,
And I can say something that is true that feels like shit, and I can also say something that's true that feels fantastic.
that's right. Which door do you want to take?
So
It's
which
all about
one? Why would
choices.
I not pick the one that feels
Right.
better?
That's
It's
right.
obvious. It's an obvious decision, right?
Right.
And so
But
the cliched example. We both want to say something
I
here.
know. You go first.
is glass half full, glass half empty. It's the same exact truth. They're both true, right? It's just, which story do I want to tell?
Yeah.
And
Which lens do I want to view the situation through?
exactly.
Which lens do I want to view the situation? And what happens is the default is the easier path, even if it doesn't serve you, is what your brain is going to do. And that's what I want people to understand.
Yeah.
Just because it doesn't serve you, but your brain is like a computer. It is searching for the path of least resistance. So if that's what it is, at the end of the day is the glass is half empty, then that's where mindfulness and intention practice comes into play. So then you can change that new default. And then when you change the default, that's the new norm.
Exactly.
That's the easier circuit. That's the transition that you go through.
Exactly. It's like I've been practicing this one way of thinking and it's been ingrained. And so my brain's just going to go down that groove.
Oh yeah.
It's going to go down whatever groove it's been practicing. If the practice is like, I am worthless, and it's like, okay, we're going to go down that groove. That'll be what we get. And then mindfulness comes in. We short circuit that traditional pattern or that very practiced pattern.
Yeah.
And then we create a new one.
Yeah. Yeah. And we just got to give it time. We got to give that time. Practice. But
I don't want to, Shelby. I want it now. I want my 6-pack. And I want my, I don't know what else. I want my Lambo. I don't know. It's so funny. It's like I have.
Let me just wave my magic wand for you.
Like for any of those things, it's like I just don't.
That's just not. Yeah. Hey, but you know what? Part of again what you and I do, and can you just take a moment and explain like what you do? Because I mean, you're a client of mine, but nobody knows what else you do.
Sure. You mean like with my guys, like in mentorship and stuff? Yeah, I should probably do that like in general, right? So that people have context when I'm reading it. Yeah. But like what I do is what we've been talking about this entire time. And it's just a very specific set of actions taken over time to reframe the thinking in my mind. So
you work with people though that struggle with other substance abuse.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with addicts and alcoholics for sure, and then I've also worked with just normal people.
Yeah.
That right, they just don't feel good in their daily. They're looking around and they're like, I don't understand why life feels like shit so much. I don't get it. Objectively, like everything is fine on paper, but I feel like absolute trash. Mm-hmm. Why is that? Okay, well, let's go into it. And then the process generally comes like, I share my story. Does that sound similar to you? Does that resonate with you? Oh yeah? Okay. My story, I talked a little bit about the story about the depression really earlier on in our call right here, right? And then now I don't feel that way anymore and it wasn't an accident. Mm-hmm. Would you like to know what that is? And they're like, fuck yeah, I want to know what that is. Holy shit. Yeah. And it's very simple. And then we do it on the channel now. We do it on Feel Good. At least the very work heavy, like manual work heavy part of it, which was identifying the thoughts, actually cataloging them, getting through to their root causes, which gets me down to the root thinking, right? So like, as an example, right? So a leaf one will come up and it's like a famous one I like to use is, let's say the meter maid gave me a ticket or something. The parking officer gave me a ticket. I fucking blow up at it. I have this outsized reaction to get a ticket, even like, and it's like I'm fuming or feel like crap. Like, where is that coming from? We boil down to the root cause that causes that resentment, that root thinking. Yeah. We generally uncover like 10 root scripts that are running in the background that really just don't work out too great.
Yeah.
And lead to a bunch of suffering. Then once we found those, oh, okay, this is where I'm running. And then it's like, what happens if we could replace these? Are there better stories to be following? And then boom.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then almost like magic, all of the exterior stuff that I was managing to go, all right, I'm going to go and fix the body. I'm going to go and fix the career. I'm going to go and fix and get the girlfriend or the whatever, right? All just kind of takes care of itself. Why?
It does.
Because I'm not on fucking fire.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not placing the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I can go, my favorite example of this that I ever listened to was on a podcast by Sam Harris. And there was this extremely successful, and let me know if you have to jump off, but extremely successful guy, like a physician, ran triathlons, like Rhodes got like, you name the accolade.
Oh yeah.
The accolade. And and he had it. And when I first listened to this guy, he was crushing it. And he was on the episode. I'm like, man, this guy, I can't listen to this guy. I can't listen to him, man. Because he's chasing some shit. And I can't do it. It's like, this guy's got something's going on with him.
Yeah.
The next podcast he was on, it was like 2-3 years later. He was on the same podcast with him, and then he's talking about how he discovered basically what we just talked about. And and he was like, I realized I was trying to fill up a hole that didn't exist with achieving all of these things.
Oh yeah.
And the motivation for him doing all of this stuff and going this, and he was miserable. He was miserable doing all this stuff and absolutely fucking miserable. And I think to bring it back to the reason why I brought this up in the first place is I think that what I want is the six pack, or what I want is the Lambo, or what I want is this thing, right? Or this job or this career. But what I really want is to feel okay.
Yeah. That's right.
And when I short circuit it and kind of circumvent all of those other crazy things that can take however long it's going to take, and just focus on well-being, then the rest kind of sorts itself out. And then what I want also shifts, and it shifts into what I actually genuinely really want to do.
Right.
And then when I start pursuing the things I really want to do, I start to feel even better. And then more opportunities open up, and then I feel even better. And then more opens up and I feel better. And then this gets exposed, and this gets exposed, and this gets exposed, and this gets exposed. Yeah. And then and it's this self-reinforcing upward spiral.
Yeah, totally. 100%. That's where I'm in the same way. Like when I was just having this conversation with a client earlier, and she was talking about her neighbor. And her neighbor, she's like, oh, she's so hardcore. She works out like 3 times a day, and she's like so lean. And then she comes over to my house, and she's complaining that, you know, she's like binge eating and she doesn't know what to do. And and my client's like envious of her. And I'm like, 2 seconds I can pick up or something going on there. What is she chasing? What is she afraid of? You know, there's more than what meets the eye to a fit body. You know, we're with a lot of fit people, and there's a lot of toxic patterns. One would be like fear of getting fat. Fear of getting fat is a big one. Fear of being judged, fear of not being accepted, right? Being an imposter.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one, right?
That's a good one.
Or they have another dialogue going on of they're not good enough because a parent or somebody else in their early childhood would judge their value or their worth based on their weight or based on their physical shape, you know? And like that's still with them. That's still with them. So a fit body does not guarantee ultimate head game or game free, you know. I mean, if anything, it can be more. I lived in that bodybuilding fitness world forever. It is the most toxic place about food and body. Disgusting.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and to the point where like I had to get out of there.
Oh yeah,
they're so obsessed, you know. But people will. Then those are the people that are idolized. So like, look at me on Instagram. Look at me. Oh, look, I have like 6-pack abs. Meanwhile, you don't know that they're probably purging. They're probably taking steroids. They probably weigh themselves every single day. They have to count every freaking thing that they eat. They feel guilty when they come off plan. They always have to be in shape for a photo shoot, or they always they have to sacrifice their life for 16 weeks out of the year for a show. Like. You don't know. So, you know, it's just like, it's like Facebook. You don't know. People put all the happiness shit out there. People have fucking problems. Fit people have problems too when it comes to head games. You don't have to have a weight problem to have food problems.
And I'm not here to tell folks not to go try and do something cool and go achieve something. By all means, go do it and go get after it. The question is, why am I doing it?
Right.
And for me, for me, when that why is out of a place of not enoughness, piece of shit, got it, like other people are going to validate me, or other people are responsible for my worth, whatever it is, when it comes from there, strap in because there's some suffering about to happen.
Oh my God. But that's right. But remember, we were just talking in the beginning about the shift in the meaning. It's the meaning behind everything.
Yes, exactly.
But that's what has to take place for it to feel effortless.
Exactly.
That's it.
That's exactly
That's it.
right. It's exactly right. Exactly right. And in order to find one, like at least my path was in order to find like a meaning that resonated and that cultivated well-being, I had to find, I'm going to use stories because that's what I love. I had to find the stories that worked first and that I could go ahead and then I could find the meaning for myself.
Yeah.
So freaking true, Shelby.
But you can't learn that in a textbook.
No, I can't read the fucking internet and figure that out. Right. At least maybe there's people that can, and awesome, and that's fantastic, and that's great. Yeah. For me, I needed somebody else.
Yeah.
And the great part about somebody else is that now I can do it for other folks, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then we can continue to do it. Now this is your business, which is freaking awesome too. That's fantastic too. I do it. I just do it. It doesn't matter as far as I'm concerned, as long as folks who are watching this stuff are getting this stuff.
Yeah. This is the real talk. This is like the real shit that happens behind the scenes of making a transformation.
Yes.
It's not like all bubble wrapped and like this is I don't know why it's not more out there for people to become aware of. That's why we wanted to do this. It's like people just need to know like they're human, they have flaws, they have an evolutionary brain. So much of this comes down to how we're thinking. And again, root causes, that's at the end of the day what we're after, and part of the root cause includes, it's not the only thing, but a high percentage of why we do what we do with whatever the unwanted behavior is includes a lot of some sort of belief system or negative thinking patterns that drives that. And that's why, we wanted to do this, but it's not out there. It's not a macronutrient issue all of the time, but these are things that we're not exposed to. It's not sexy. It's not, you can't put it in a 6-week package. It takes some time. It takes some intention. It takes some patience. And America today does not want that.
It's true.
That is not sellable.
The sellable, it was really easy to resonate with and relate to as a result. And so that's where the so much cart before the horse happens, where it's like, look at the body transformations are the best one in my opinion. It's like, I'm going to proxy this result of transforming my body to be transforming what I'm really wanting, which is my mind and my well-being.
Right. But it happens the opposite.
Exactly.
It's the opposite order.
And not only is it that how it works, I would argue that's what I would want in the first place.
Yeah.
If what I'm really wanting is well-being, then why don't I just focus on well-being?
That's right. Well, because there's such a strong connection with people with thinking that the bridge to that is the weight loss, right? And really, there's so much that they can do here and now. A lot of things, maybe not everything. I mean, if you're let's say, for example, morbidly obese, and you have a lot of physical limitations, yes, right here and now, there are certain things that you cannot do, but there's other things that you can do when it comes to feeling good, right? And focusing inward and making those inner shifts.
Yes.
And when you make those inner shifts, it will translate eventually to the outer shifts. That's like the bonus.
Yes, exactly.
That's the amazing part.
Exactly. Those are a result of the shift into well-being.
Sometimes I have to, when I look at, well, why do you want to lose the weight? Well, I want to like wear cute clothes, or I want to feel confident about myself, or I want to travel more. Well, what can we take from this list? What can we do right now? Why can't we walk with more confidence right now?
Bingo. Yep.
Why can't we just wear cute clothes with where you're at now? Why can't we go somewhere local for travel if you're uncomfortable sitting in an airplane seat? Well, let's go there's things that you can do now. Do not put your life on hold because you think the weight loss is going to give you this like end of the rainbow pot of gold of life. It just, you'll be waiting forever.
Build momentum. Build momentum. in the direction I want to be going.
Yeah. And that's through action. That's through any action. One step.
But Shelby, going for a walk is not enough. I've got to wake up and I've got to do fasted cardio for an hour every single day, or I'm a fat fucking failure. This is what everyone does, Shelby. Everyone wakes up at 5 a.m., they meditate for 2 hours, and then they go for an hour-long run, and then they go to their $1 million a year job.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, I forgot. They wake up next to their supermodel wife / husband, right? They kiss their 2.2 perfect children. Oh, good morning. And they have they go for a run with their dog, of course, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they prepare their organic coconut coffee or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then they go about their perfect lives.
Yeah, no problems.
So I can't go for a 5-minute walk because then I'm not that.
Yeah, not good enough.
I'm not good enough. I can't. So
I'm not going to drop the 2 pounds that way.
Why would I do a little bit that's good for me when I could just sit here and hate myself?
That makes sense. That goes back to my scenario A and D with the broth and the less often. It's like, that'll never work. That'll never work.
It's so funny. The tricks that my mind plays on myself sometimes are hysterical. Like, just go for a walk. Just go outside and move around. It'll feel good. Not enough, man. No, not enough.
I mean, I tell my brain, I'm just like, oh my God, shut the F up. Like, just shut up. But
that's what it needs.
Yeah, just shut up. Like, I know what I'm doing, but it takes time to get to that point. And you can giggle like we talked,
of course.
And that's what makes life then really enjoyable, because you're not up against this just pressure and judgment. Not that like you and I don't have stress or we don't have worry. I mean, we're human, like we have those things, but it's no longer dictating and causing us to live in this darker, smaller place of fear and doubt and scarcity. We're able to really, truly understand what it means to be here, feel fulfilled, feel happy. But it took understanding this.
Yeah, it's not about never feeling unpleasant emotions.
I still feel it all the time.
It's like, it happens. What has changed dramatically, I think I said this already, is just my relation to these emotions. And the irony is that by changing my relationship to discomforting emotion, I experience less of them.
Yeah.
So they just don't happen as much, and they're not as intense. And they're fleeting, and I can laugh at them.
Yeah.
Or I can sit in them and also sit in them and be okay. So much suffering is the resistance to suffering in the first place. So much of it. It's like, I don't want to feel the thing.
Okay. You just said something so powerful, because it really is sometimes just opening up the doorway to looking at that, having a conversation. And like, this happens all the time with me and my clients. When they just stop, and I'm going to use the word mindfulness, but that they stop to tune in and to listen, especially to their emotions. It's like the first time that they've done that in so long, like objectively. And that just, so many things naturally align for them after that. Because there's, a lot of people I work with have had a lot of emotional neglect growing up. And so it's been something that it's something that they've been in survival mode for a long time. They haven't really sat with some of that suffering, or they sat with their emotions and getting to know themselves. Like, they just haven't. And as soon as we give them the opportunity to just stop and just think freely, it's like, wow, they feel relieved already, even if we didn't do any application of any kind. It's just opening that door to conversation, like you say, to the suffering or to the unknown or to something that you're just not sure about, and having like just the time and attention put into that does wonders in terms of healing and recovery.
That's true. Releasing resistance.
Oh,
it's like so
I
much.
Love that.
So releasing resistance is, and that's definitely not mine at all. Like, none of this stuff is mine. Like, I also want to preface this. Like, none of these ideas. Like,
beautiful. Release the resistance. I'm just going to take that. I'm going to pass it on to my followers.
The only thing that's mine is 120-day rolling average of well-being. That's it. I'm happy. That's it. The only one.
Trademarked.
That's it. Exactly. Trademarked. Me. And I think this is a great place to kind of close it out.
Yeah, I agree.
The releasing resistance
Releasing
is
resistance.
like so much of my pain and suffering has been not wanting to feel the pain and the suffering.
Yeah.
I would argue that's the vast majority of it. That's the iceberg. Like the tip is just the feeling, and then the rest is like resisting all of those things. And then
and I
Go
think
ahead.
that's normal, just to add, because here we go with the brain again. The brain is smart. If it's seeing, hey, that stove is hot, don't put your hand there. Don't go where that pain is, or that potential pain could be. It's going to say, don't do it. Don't go there. You don't know what lies there. It doesn't like uncertainty. It doesn't like pain. So that's where a lot of people, they aren't able to move through that obstacle. And that's just the primitive brain, right? Evolutionary brain working on our behalf, but in these cases, it's preventing us from healing.
And we're like, thank you, lizard brain. I'm gonna take over.
Lizard brain.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for your
That's right.
like your ancient wisdom. But there are no lions and tigers behind here. I'm gonna go and just sit in this for a moment, and it's gonna be fine.
I love that. Perfect.
Because it's not a hot stove. It's just a girl didn't call me back or text me back.
Yeah. So true. That was a good one. Release the resistance. I'm gonna borrow that one too. I just like the verbatim. It's good.
Oh, I love it. I love when I heard that. I was like, oh
it.
gosh, I
Mhm.
love that one for sure.
Mhm.
Shelby, I love these talks. I love having them. I'm so glad we're recording them. I'm so glad that they're out in the world now. Hopefully folks can find them useful, and if not, I find it useful. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Me too. We'll get the word out. We got to get the message out there more. So
yeah,
more real talk.
I'll stop recording, and then that'll take some time to process, and then that should be up by today or tomorrow. I can send you a link if you want. So
yeah, hang out for a second after you stop recording.
I'll hit the stop. Bye, everybody.
Bye.